Hello everyone, thanks and welcome to another episode of A Greasy Skillet. As you folks know, we do a whole lot of workshops and very pro-looking presentations here at Digital Skillet. And these Greasy Skillet sessions get you to see kind of a little bit behind the scenes as to how this stuff goes, and hopefully, lets us explore some different content and different ways to use things like generative AI to solve problems and to introduce new people to it and to introduce new people to you. So today, I actually have a long-term friend here, Jason Paquette.
Good to be with you, Rob.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome to my kitchen. Jason actually runs a little webisode series called Rocky West Outings, where it looks like you get really into all things van life and how you put together vans and how you go adventure in the wilderness. Tell us a little bit about how that works.
Well, you'll see there's not a lot of content up there yet, so we're just starting. So I'm trying to figure this out as we go. So be patient with me as I'll learn, come along for the ride. Basically, we know, my wife and I, we love the outdoors, we love van life, fallen in love with it. We're building our own van to do more. The channel wants to be going through Western Canada. We want to interview locals, ask them where they like to go, and then go there. So step number one is to build the van. So you're going to get a whole bunch of van build series, and then a little later here this summer, we're going to start getting out there and taking you to all kinds of cool places throughout Western Canada.
Well, that is super neat. So one of the things that we've found through the workshops that we do through Digital Skillet is actually that a lot of people have not yet used generative AI like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, any of those types of things. In fact, we find that typically in any of the workshops that we run, like 10% of the attendees have never popped open ChatGPT, and significantly larger percentages may have popped it open, written a memo, something like that, but not really substantially got into some of the features.
That's me, Rob.
Yeah, so we're lucky today.
I like being outdoors, and hovering over a computer. Sometimes I'm a little old school.
Yeah, not so much. So this is going to be awesome. So today we've actually brought Jason in, and what we're going to do is talk about vans. So what kind of tell me about vans. What goes on in van life?
Okay, well, we're all wrapped up in building the van at the moment. The van that we want to build, I want to be going where the locals go fishing, etc. Canadians are outdoors, so this van needs to be off-road ready. So I'm trying to build a van that you can't just buy. We bought this old school Econoline E350. It's got a V10. I'm going to give it a 6-inch list.
I don't know what any of those things mean.
That's all right, man. It's going to be big like my Jeep.
Cool. And we're in Canada. And so one of the things in Canada, of course, it gets cold in the winter. This van's going to be something we're using in the winter.
In the winter, yeah. So that's one of the big criteria. I would love to be out in the snow, camping out at like -15, -10.
Right. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to figure out how to use ChatGPT to solve some of your van issues. And as I understand it, what we're going to be looking at is specifically around heating and moisture. So why don't you run us through what happens here?
Okay. Well, so I'm already working on it. I've already got the walls insulated and the floor insulated. And I'm about to do the ceiling, so we're not too late to get all the insulation we need. I got talking with Rob, telling him my challenge of I looked at YouTube and a bit of internet search around how I should insulate this thing. And one of the topics that came up that was new to me, I hadn't really thought about in a van build, is the same as a house moisture content.
Totally.
So where do I put the vapor barrier, or do I need one? So I thought I'd be clever, jump on YouTube, do a bunch of searching, and I'm just more confused now after watching all this stuff than I was to be started. Apparently, vapor barriers in a van build is kind of a thing that's debated.
I've slept in a few cars, but I never thought about how I actually insulate and make it cozy. So okay, so you got van.
Yeah.
You got the outside of the van. How do you stack up all these elements? How does the insulation?
That's my question. I'll show you what I got, and we'll see if your computer can give me some ideas of what I did wrong.
Yeah, if the Wizard of Oz can help you out here.
So we got this old school van. That's probably a little more dramatized on the wall, but that'll be fun. Yeah. And then, so that's the outside skin of the van, outside.
We'll put a disclaimer just for educational use only here.
NTS.
Yeah, not to scale.
So anyways, outside wall of the van, that's all cool. Then an inside kind of skin that's the structure, and it does things like this, and it connects at a few points. And then I'm going to build, I'll make it thick, another inside layer, and I'm going to curve it a little bit, where that'll be my finished interior wall. So
And
this
what's
is the
that usually made
inside. So for me, this is going to actually be cool. Right now I've just used birch 5mm plywood,
Okay.
and I've screwed it on and glued it, and give it a little bit of curvature. But that's not going to be the finished. What I'm going to do then on top of that is, because I'm not a finished carpenter, and I want this van build to look like quite industrial, quite four-wheel drive, automotive, not a little log cabin.
Okay.
So we're going to put, oops, sorry, terrible sketch. I'll fix it. We're going to put, I've got a local guy that's manufacturing Molly panels.
Okay.
So we're going to put on these Molly panels onto this thing that are going to hide all of my skins. For those that don't know what a Molly panel is, this is like the military backpacks that got all the webbing that you can put knives and bags to and that sort of stuff. So there'd be like a bag bolted on here with a few straps and stuff, and on all the gaps where we don't have things on the wall like cupboards and stuff, right? Windows.
Cool.
So anyways, back to the insulation then. So what I did was I used spray foam in as much of the interior space, from the inside steel of the van to the outside steel of the van. I put, we'll do the same hatch pattern. I put spray foam insulation in here.
Okay.
I also used a little bit of that insulation, rock wool, because it does a little better with the moisture. And I just jammed it in where I could fit it in with my fingers, and then we use spray foam for some of the rest. You know, so there might be some areas of spray foam in some of these little gaps that I couldn't get some of the rock wool in. So then on top of that, then I used rigid styrofoam. So, and of course it will be, shaped a little bit. And I used a 1-inch rigid styrofoam all over where I could behind my birch plywood.
Can you do me a favor? Can you label this sketch with these materials?
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
I'm gonna
So-
challenge you here. First of all, in spelling, obviously.
Foam insulation, rock wool. I'll just,
What else we got? Oh, your Molly.
how am I doing on spelling so far?
Not panel, but pretty good. Spell good.
Must have been
Neat
instant.
Yeah, Grammarly. Okay, so
I'll just do the undo command here quickly.
And so the big question is where
Yeah.
we should be putting the vapor barrier. Obviously, vapor barrier not outside of the van. The options are here, here, or I guess theoretically here.
That's right.
If you wanted to look at vapor barrier.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And at the moment, because I didn't get a clear answer from my searching around the internet, I got more confused. I just said stuff it. No vapor.
no vapor barrier. Things will get moldy. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to sit down and give you a run through of how ChatGPT works, and how we can do some prompts here to actually maybe get to the bottom of this Reddit battle that you're seeing as far as this is concerned. So for those of you who haven't used ChatGPT before, basically this is the interface. These things look exactly the same. If you pop open ChatGPT, if you take a look at Copilot, Copilot looks basically exactly the same. If you look at DeepSeek, DeepSeek's going to look exactly the...
DeepSeek kind of sounds like the dark web.
Well, actually, it's funny you should say. So DeepSeek's actually this like Chinese AI that people have been very, very concerned about. So yeah, they're all over. Mistral, French AI. These things basically all look very, very similar at the end of the day. There's some place where you're going to type in what you want. Usually some sort of options with regards to like how I want the tone, or do I want this to take longer or less long to think about? Because one thing people don't understand is that the AI needs a certain amount of time to actually think about an answer. So if it took 10 minutes to come up with an answer, you'd be like, you know what, I'm just going to read the Reddit thread. I want it quick. But if it does it quick, it might not do it correctly.
So does it? Do I wait till it's done thinking and it takes as long as it takes, or can I jump in at any point and go, enough, just give me the answer?
No, you generally let it run, and then it's going to spit out. But for example, on ChatGPT, if I click the deep research, this would actually potentially take up to 10 minutes as it searches the web, thinks about things, pulls things together, doesn't just simply spit out an answer. So you got to
10 minutes is probably better than the 7 or 8 hours I spend there.
Fair, but if you can imagine, if I've got a whole series of questions at work, and I just need a little help in terms of like, hey, you know what, I didn't take the digital skillet fundamentals of Excel course yet. What does some IFS do? Bang, you drop it in there, and it'll tell you. The other things to really watch out for here is you can pick different models of the large language model that you might want to use. These all have different features that are constantly changing. You know, as of right now, this 4.0 is kind of your default great thing that I usually stick with for your normal.
But how, I mean, I don't understand model or 4.0. Like, so if I clicked on this, I would have no idea.
Totally.
I would just start at the top.
And that's why this is the default, right? So for advanced users, you can start going through and saying, no, you know what, I'm going to be doing a whole pile of coding. So I'm going to want O3 because it's going to be going through and trying to figure out.
Well, I guess it does kind of say great for most questions, fast for advanced reasoning.
It gives you some description, but safe to say generally we use the 4.0.
So there's not a van life one in there?
There is not, although people are making custom GPTs all over the place. Other things we can do is we can force web searches, right? Or we can upload attachments. If you had like a catalog of van parts, you could throw it in here and provide a certain amount of knowledge to the system in terms of like, okay, give me part numbers, and it'll pull it out. Yeah. So, but let's start out with something pretty basic here. So what we're doing is, first of all, giving it some context. So I am, spelling mistakes, building a camper van. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, sure.
To use throughout the year.
So interesting that you're like telling it a story here. Like, I mean, I just would have searched DIY van or camper van.
Totally.
You know, like why the I am?
Why am I saying that where we live and where it's very cold at night and such is because at the end of the day, what we see is that the more context you can provide the AI, the better the answer, right? It's the same as if you know, my wife goes and tells me like, hey, go to the grocery store and get some food. Who knows what I'm going to bring back? Whereas if she's more specific, like, hey, we're having company tonight, there's going to be 12 of us, I'd like to barbecue, go get some steaks. Well, now I have much better, I'm set up to answer that question and bring home what I actually need to bring home.
So in addition to that, though, you're just like talking like you're talking to a buddy.
Totally.
Right?
And that's
so you're talking like a person. Like I would, in my mind, is thinking this is a computer. So I would be like talking to a computer. So I mean, like, hey, mate, I'm going to build a van. Would not be on my mind.
Totally. And that's a big transformation with generative AI is that this allows us to actually get information. You know, traditionally you'd search a query on Google and say, hey, vapor barrier, and then you crawl through thousands of Reddit threads and all this conflicting information. The whole point,
and it would be different than talking. It'd be like vapor barrier, vans,
totally.
You know, DIY. You know,
one
DIY.
So I'm going to say here, I'm going to heat it and insulate the van.
Okay.
However, one question I have is with regards to moisture control. How should I set up the vapor barrier? Should it be inside or outside the insulation? Right? And you're right? So like this is what we find is a lot of people do not prompt long enough. And in fact, you know, if you've taken our AI workshop, one of the things that we do is actually go through pro tips for prompt engineering, right? So like what we see is like we really want to provide more context. Again, people write too short of prompts. We have to say like,
use an example.
Yeah, if you have like, hey, we can show a really lame example is I could say, hey, you know what? write this as if a pirate was responding, and we'll do this in a sec. It's a great use of technology.
Should have pirate.
Should have, right? And as well, we really want, if we do want a better answer, we want to say, hey, take some time, reason further, and so on and so forth. The other thing that we realize is that often with these AIs, you're going to get an answer, and if you try to pigeonhole it into giving the exact answer, it's not going to work out. It's going to start going into some weird direction and get stressed out. What's better is you get an answer that you like, except that it's going to be 80%, you deal with the remaining 20%. Imagine having a junior assistant, right? As opposed to getting them to taking it all the way across the finish line, you get them to take it almost, and then you polish it off with some
kind of an interesting way of thinking about it. So it's going to come back with a lot of information, and then it's my job to kind of poke through that and go, oh, this is what I was looking for. That's kind of interesting.
Exactly, right? So let's see what it says here. So you can see also the responses that ChatGPT gives become these kind of very conversational type things, right?
I know it's an awesome project.
And gnarly cold winters. So, depending on the AI, the tone really starts changing. But what's nice here is it's giving us a short answer. Vapor barrier should go on the warm side of the insulation, which means inside the van between your living space and the insulation. Although I do have one question. So it's saying put it on the inside here, because that...
Well, hang on a second though. So the warm side is the inside in the winter.
Yeah, what happens in the summer?
In the summer, the outside is literally the warm side.
Totally. So it's provided some rationale here why it matters in cold weather. The inside of your van is warm and humid. Metal of the van is cold, moist, cool. You're going to get mold, rot, etc., etc. And the way they suggest to build the wall, give the shell, spray foam or rigid foam board installation, which is interesting that you mentioned spray foam.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do it for this reason. I did it because I couldn't get my fingers in some of the holes.
I can buy that. Also, it mentions to put in this reflective radiant barrier.
Yeah.
Then put in the vapor barrier. Then put in your wall panel. Right.
So that's interesting because the ceiling, this is coming up to different answers. We did some of these things, but for different reasons. So we spent a whole lot of time prepping the skin of the van. We scrubbed everything back to the steel wall, and we sealed up as many little seams and holes as we possibly could with a little reflective tape where we needed to, or a bit of spray foam and other cracks and things. But our motivation was dust.
Okay.
Dust rolling into the van, and this is the only time to seal it all up, right?
Yeah.
So,
now, one of the interesting things with this as well is what ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini or any of these Gen AIs let us do is you've asked a question, but now I can follow up on the question further. And the thing has memory, so it remembers your old question, what it answered, and you start building up, right? So, as an example...
So, how does that work? Does that work like over a period of days or just in this... Search, like if I close my computer, go have lunch, and try again.
Yep,
it'll start over, or will it?
Actually, yeah, that's a great question. So what happens is you can actually open this sidebar, and if you take a look, this is a list of all of the chats that I've had before, right? So yesterday I was drawing ninjas making, selling ice cream from trucks. I can go back to that and continue on in my...
So you would click on that, that would jog its memory, say, in this context...
It just actually reloads all the text and gets us going to from where we are. So this becomes really handy because I could have a long conversation. Now, granted, the total length of that conversation, depending on how much memory the AI model has right now, tends to be about 44 pages of text, which is a lot of chatting back and forth. But let's try this. So what ends up happening is, let's go back to our...
So are you going to refine our question and Ben again, like what are you talking about is the warm side?
Yes. Now, let me just open that up here. Where did we go? There we have it. So, I am open up that last conversation. And what we're going to say is something along the lines of, what happens in the summertime versus the winter time with this vapor barrier.
So plus 20 versus minus 20.
Well, exactly, right? So one thing I've noticed with ChatGPT is it really likes to compliment you on how clever you are for asking these questions. So it's a really important question. So what it says is great. In the winter, you've got the inside is warm, the outside's cold and dry. Vapor goes from inside to outside. So in that case, vapor barrier on the interior. Summer, inside's cooler, outside's hot. Now you've got a problem because if you've got a big plastic vapor barrier on the inside, you get trapped, right? So what do? There you go. Is no vapor barrier.
All right, good. I don't have to tear it all back out again.
And suggests that you want to make sure that you're using foam board insulation and sealing all your seams with tape.
Well, actually, there's an interesting point there. So, you know, in some of the selection of materials, I didn't overthink it. I literally went to Home Depot and bought this rigid pinks foam board. But my thought was, it's affordable, it's easy to work with, and it's kind of hydrophobic, really, right? Like, who cares if it gets wet? And the same, I chose rock wool insulation, and I know there's better products out there, but it's also a little bit hydrophobic.
Well,
actually, and mold resistant, right?
So the interesting thing I noticed is that ChatGPT has provided in the second answer here to use a smart vapor retarder. So it's actually recommending two products here, which you could then go and search more about. That says that like in dry wintertime conditions, they act like vapor barriers. In humid, they allow moisture to escape, right? And they're saying like don't use a poly vapor barrier, right?
Like the plastic that you just
totally right.
Oh, that's really good news. Okay.
And so anyway, so this becomes then a really handy way of like being able to have your little side assistant that you can ask questions as you're going through these problems.
You know, this is really interesting, Rob, because what I was learning is that on YouTube that there was a debate. Everybody was using high science. It sounded really good when I was watching it, why the vapor barrier should be on the outside. Then I would watch a different video, and they were literally arguing exactly the opposite and making really good points. And then I was like, oh, well, that makes more sense. I believe that. And it just would go back and forth, and I'm like, man, I don't get it. All of these arguments are really good, but I did kind of end up in a place of like, I think folks are kind of overthinking this a bit, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so ChatGPT, has just cut right to the chase and said, yeah, that's a problem in the extreme weather. So, the conclusion is maybe none is best, right?
Totally. So that's one of the other really cool things about these generative AIs is that they don't necessarily provide you with just facts. They provide you somewhat with opinions. They can infer and kind of expand from your question. One of the other kind of things that's really neat too is the ability to actually produce illustrations, right? So if we wanted to, you drew a very nice drawing here of that insulation. We could do the same thing, produce an illustration.
I want to see if it spells panel right then.
Yeah, that's of how this vapor barrier setup would look in profile. Assuming the cold winter scenario. All right. So it's going to take a look. What actually becomes really interesting, if you see that analyzing tab, you can clock that down. And so what ChatGPT is doing right now is actually kicking off software code to write the ability for it to actually create its own little plot here. So if you can imagine, it writes some code, because code's just the language, then spins up essentially its own little computer in the cloud here, runs that in its own instance. Because it's running its own code, that can produce a product, and that's what we're seeing here.
And that's what it's writing a code to make the diagram.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the diagram, what's really cool is it's showing you here, just a second, that like, it wants the metal van, cool side out here, insulation, vapor barrier, interior living space, and it's actually nicely annotated the direction that the vapor is going in the winter from this cold.
That's kind of correct. You and I chatted a bit about that because in a house, your moisture mostly is from the outside trying to come in, I would think.
Yeah.
Right? Or at least in humid coastal climates. In a van, doesn't matter if you're humid or not, you're breathing in a small space all night, so the moisture is always trying to come from the inside out.
Yeah, actually, I guess that's a very interesting point. This is opposite to how you would do that in a house. That's a different workshop day altogether. So yeah, so hopefully now you can kind of use this a bit to be able to help you be able to like find more information, right? If you wanted to figure out awesome. I also always like to compliment our future AI overlords, so I stay polite in this thing. Awesome.
That might be hard for me. I've been known to swear at computers.
Yeah, exactly. Say that in wintertime, the nighttime temperature is minus 20 degrees Celsius. Sure. And I'd like to keep the interior of the van warm at plus 20. How warm do you keep the van?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, actually, yeah, plus 20.
What combination of BTUs is what you measured?
Yeah, I bought a S-bar heater, but I don't know what the BTUs are on it.
Right, so here we can ask it for some recommendations of like, great, what
so
combination
it'll tell me how
heater.
many BTUs I need then.
Yeah, and let's see how it does that. So again, if we click analyzing, it's kicked out some Python code. It's starting to calculate some formulas that I don't understand, and it's going to come out with an answer here.
Not that I'm a coder, but if I was, is that something you could kind of cut and paste out?
Oh, well, actually, that's a great point. So you actually could. I could just simply copy it like this, and then if I had a Python compiler or something like that, or what we do again in our workshops is we actually create Visual Basic code for Excel. So if I wanted, I suppose, to make a BTU Excel calculator,
that's kind of where my mind was going.
Yeah, I could literally copy this, paste
So
this.
say I was having a chat here and I actually knew the BTUs of this S-bar heater, I could tell it that, and then if I went and actually read the manufacturer's spec on it, oh, I was actually wrong, I could tweak it.
I have a weird feeling we're doing another Greasy Skills session.
Well, yeah, I'm making a list.
Thumbs
of
up,
all the
subscribe.
things.
So in the response, it's taken its calculation. It's figured out, hey, you know what? Depending on what your R value, this is the heater that you're going to require. So if you've got R5, so 1 to 1.5 inch thick XPS, you'll need an 8100 BTU per hour heater. And then goes towards and starts answering like whatever
2 kilowatt diesel heater, 5 kilowatt diesel heater. I'm probably in the 5 kilowatt range. Interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, so I think I've collectively got about 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches on my walls. I know that on the floor I put a 1/2 inch of insulation. And I haven't finished the walls or the ceiling yet, but the ceiling I'm going to hang fairly low because I got lots of headroom. So I'm thinking I might be able to get away with, 2 inches.
Well, let's find out. So what should I have on the ceiling to be on the safe side?
Wow, that's pretty terrible. There we go, make it a little better.
Right, so great, you've got 1 inch on the wall, 1/2 inch on the floor. It's figured out that that's an R value of 6.
Told it those.
I just
and you
told
put a
it.
question mark for the ceiling?
No, well, that's what I've said. I said, hey, what do you think the ceiling should be? So it's identified that heat's going up, so it's reasoning, which is nice, right? And so it's saying if you want your R value on the ceiling to be highest, so go R7 to R8, which is again going to like put in a 2 inch XPS. Or a 1.75 inch thinsulate, and then again it's saying you can actually build this by sandwiching 2 1-inch foam boards to build this up.
Okay, so then let's go back and see. So if I've got what did it recommend? Let's check to see if I've come up with the right answer. I didn't follow all of that. So what was the floor that it's recommending?
So we said 1/2 inch on the floor.
You told it right. Of course, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so then, but we said we wanted to know what the ceiling was.
Yeah, and so it guessed what you said. You suggested 2 inches on the ceiling, and it came up with an answer of you should go with 2 inches on the ceiling.
So, the logic's right. I'm heading
Totally.
in the right direction. Okay.
And the nice thing about these too is like, it's not all just about logic with ChatGPT. You can have some fun. So, you could also say something like, "That's great. Now provide me with a watercolor sketch of me driving my Ford camper, is it?
Ford Econoline.
Line camper van
6-inch lift.
with okay, let's see, 6-inch
Or
lift
overlanding, maybe. I don't know how you want to tell her.
through the woods."
And Jason's a pirate.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I'm dressed like a pirate.
I always wanted to be a pirate.
Right. So another really cool thing, we saw how we can actually draft out those little sketches, kind of almost this like illustration. But another really powerful thing is actually being able to create imagery and so on and so forth.
So I would think that this is going to take a bit of time.
That's going to take
It's
a little
kind
bit
of
of time.
Big ask, isn't it?
So it will, as we see, it's going to be cooking here along. But depending on really like what kind of subscription you have to ChatGPT, you can get the free one, you can pay for it, you can pay higher levels. It'll speed up depending on what the server load is. That's going to change as well. But we're going to see this this pop up here.
So those variables would play into its...
Yeah, because you have to imagine like how many millions and billions of people are trying to create pirate images right now, right? Like this is a hot commodity. And so what we're going to start seeing is that this slowly starts to emerge from the ether here. But I suspect that we're going to end up with a pretty sweet result.
I'm intrigued already. Just from the top, it's just like a slow reveal. Actually,
It is the slow reveal. But I do see a pirate hat in your future, so that's kind of a...
Looks like I have to grow the rest of the full beard, though.
Yeah. The goatees are not gonna work for it. So while this is cooking here, so like what other applications could you think of using ChatGPT for as far as van design? So we're gonna make the BTU heater.
Look, I mean, so the interesting thing that I've learned in this van build is that, it's kind of like building a whole house. I need to know a bit about mechanicking, obviously, a bit about framing and structures and insulating. I also need to be a plumber, and I need to be an electrician, just to name some of them. And that's where the job gets to be like, oh my goodness, like every time I go to do something, I have to like learn a whole another specialty, right?
Yeah.
So if it's yielding answers like this, that was way faster than me poking around the internet and watching YouTube shows to come up with the same answer, actually with way less certainty, I think.
Yeah.
And so, Rob, I'm going to be coming back to get you to help me with the electrical.
I'm looking
and
forward.
The plumbing, maybe even.
And let's
All right,
check
here
what's
we go.
happened here.
Damn. That's it.
That's pretty good. It's a Ford for sure. Hey.
Yeah.
Although no one's driving.
Oh, that's interesting. Well,
So you're just kind of hanging out.
It is van life, which is a lot of hanging out.
But it's a pretty good representation out of the day. So
I might have to update my my channel cover page.
I'll send you the link. So anyway, sir, thanks for coming
That
to
was
Greasy
awesome.
Skillet. Thanks everyone, and we'll be welcoming Jason back for sure as we make some spreadsheets and get into some electrical work, it seems. So thanks everybody. We'll see you soon.
Awesome.